I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. This is another paid request for my dear friend Efree. Thank you so much for that. If anyone wants to send in requests for reviews, topics, reactions, re-reviews, pretty much any type of video, you feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for another John Ritter film. It's a made-for-TV movie called The Colony, which I had never heard of, never knew existed. And the premise of the film is John Ritter and his family, they have moved into this kind of controlled, gated community because John Ritter is a computer programmer who he installs these home security systems that can control stuff like you push a button and it closes your curtains, it closes your door locks, almost anything electrical, kind of what they would call a smart house nowadays. And this came out in 1995, this movie. So some people liked it. Hey, you want to come to this? Oh, I don't know. But then one day, him and his wife get robbed, and I think I can't remember if they get their car stolen. They get fucked over. They get their shit stolen. Get out of the car, get out of the car. So they have to figure out what to do next. We don't like it here. Okay, let's go to this gated community. Seems nice, everything seems fine, but then more and more you realize that once you're here, you would have to give up a lot of your freedom. And it kind of raises the question, would you give up your freedom for safety? Now, a lot of people talk about how it's unrealistic. To me, something like this I could easily see going on with some of these gated communities. And maybe they do it a lot more subtle, but being all subtle doesn't always make the most fun, interesting movie, if you know what I mean. But you're in a community and they give you one rule, then you give you 2, then you give you 5, then you give you 15, then you give you 50 rules. Well, if you don't want to do it, just leave. And it's their matter of control. But in this case, they won't let them leave, so even more so. So I would say the plot was somewhat interesting. John Ritter, it was nice to see him play a bit more of a serious role, because usually he deals with comedy. Other than Steve Dean's It, which he did a great job in that. But there's not a whole lot of movies that John Ritter got to showcase his dramatic. And not to say that there's a lot of strong dramatic points for John Ritter to play off of, but it was still cool to see him in a bit more of a serious movie. This did remind me of an X-Files episode, which granted that came out years after this, but it was an episode called Arcadia. And the reason they remind me of that is because Mulder and Scully investigated a person that was murdered, and one of the things that murder occurred, the reasons, because they were sent this gift and they put it outside their home, and this is part of a community that's very stringent on their rules. Only in that movie, in that episode, it dealt with some creature that one of them created out of their head to help kill whoever was not the perfect ruler, the perfect person to follow all the rules and all the regulations. And it's been a while since I've seen the episode, so I'm not explaining it the best way. One day I would like to rewatch those X-Files episodes. I have it over there, but anyway, back to this. So, there's been a few other films that dealt with those gated communities, and, what would you do? What would you do if, okay, you're part of this, now you're stuck, and so, there are moments where just this assault of rules. Oh, if you're out exercising, you have a dress code. Well, your pets, you can't be in certain places. Well, your kids, they go to school, but there's no PTA because we don't want the adults to influence what we do, and your kids have to be in uniforms, and oh, now there's sensors all over, and pretty much the mom finding out that the kids are being taught, fuck blue collar people, you want to be surgeons and doctors, those are the people to care about. Blue collars, no, that's bad. One of the more fucked up things is they find their dog that's been lost for a bit, and there's a scar right here. They took the fucking community took the dog and did a surgery because he was barking a bit too loud. And that is when they're like, you know what, fuck this. But then they can't leave because their equity is gone and they have no money to go, and they've been fucked over. And John Ritter's brother, who's a cop, he's trying to figure out what's going on, because if you try to leave, you try to do this or that, it could be linked to some certain deaths that could occur. Other people you may recognize. Hal Linden, Barney Miller himself, he's the leader of this community. So for you Barney Miller fans, Hal Linden is in this. June Lockhart, she plays a teacher. She was on the TV show Lost in Space back in the day, and many episodes of Lassie. Marshall Teague, he's the main security guy working with Hal Linden's character. Marshall Teague, if you remember Roadhouse, he's the one who said the immortal line, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. After for a split second, I imagined him saying that to John Ritter during the little fight that they have. He's just going to grab John Ritter. I used to fuck guys like you in prison. I don't know why. I assume he's going to say that in every movie. Although it'd be fucking funny if he did. Just randomly, just Marshall Teague like, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. No, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. He doesn't say that, but again, I will say what hampers the film is the fact it was made for TV. Because it was made for TV, it just doesn't have the budget to do a whole lot with any spectacle or any big thriller set pieces or any big chase scenes or the little bit of action fight, which is not much, because it's all, like I said, made for TV. It's not. I do wish this was an actual movie with the budget to be able to make it look a little bit higher production quality, whether it be the film quality, whether it be, again, a little bit bigger set pieces. And what carries the film for me is John Ritter's performance, being a fan of John Ritter. And also the idea. The idea is an interesting idea. I know a lot of people say that it's unrealistic, but I don't think this is as unrealistic as people make it out to be, especially in today's age. That what makes the film a bit more interesting in retrospect. And this, again, this was 1995 this came out. But I just see this stuff happening. And yes, when it gets to the third act, there's certain tropes like, we gotta find the disc. And where's the disc? You know, it doesn't end on a stupid, ridiculous note, which I was fine with. But it's just one of those things where I'm watching the film, I'm not minding it, but in the back of my head, I keep remembering it is a TV, made-for-TV movie, and it just not as big, thrilling, exciting as it could have been, perhaps because of the limitations of its TV movie budget. Also, time. That's the thing with TV movies. Unless you're a miniseries with Stephen King on the name, or some other big name on the to sell your film. Other than that, a lot of TV movies, especially back in the day, they didn't have a whole... Unless you had someone like Steven Spielberg do Duel and really make the money pop out. But for the most part, that's why a lot of these TV movies, there's a certain limited factor to it. And I guess that's why I don't watch a whole lot of TV movies, because I know it's going to be the case, and I'm just one of those stickler for... But it's one of those things, okay, when you don't have a budget, you got to utilize other stuff. In this case, like I say, it's the idea behind it. The Stepford Wives-esque... Where again, this realization of just how the look of this community is deceiving. And Stepford Wives type outlook is definitely a good way to describe the proceedings in this movie. And that did, I wouldn't say surprise me. Just earlier in the film they mentioned, oh, that dog is a bit loud. But I don't know, just that idea of your pet being taken and given surgery without your permission or notice. For some reason that really centered in my brain. And I think that works better than just killing the pet. Just killing the pet, would have been more typical, because a lot of films have done that. Here, it made a bit more, in a weird way, I know this is not going to make sense, more realistic, as in... number one, they did it. Well, can you prove that they did this? Can you prove someone else did this? And the fact that there's no death, then that will create less friction and less trouble with authorities. Because death will create, whether it be a pet or a person, will create a lot more talk amongst police, security, whatever people you talk to. I'm like, wow, that's a really fucked up idea. And John Ritter, he has some nice moments. I like the moment where he apologizes to his daughter, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it, Dad. This place sucks." "Oh, I thought you really liked this place." "Yeah, well, but..." And I thought that was a nice little father-daughter moment. The daughter wasn't a total bitch. That was nice. That was refreshing. The kids were not irritating. They have a little boy, this teenage girl. I think it was refreshing. They were not... Because a lot of times kids would be like, oh my god, they're just annoying as pissing in the wind. But not the case here. Not the case. So I don't... You look up some user reviews. People complain about the acting. The acting didn't bother me. Like I said, I'm a fan of John Ritter. I liked him. The other actors were fine. Granted, it is funny because you get a lot of people from TV. I mean, Three's Company, John Ritter, Barney Miller. I mentioned you, June Lockhart, Lassie, Lost in Space. But while I was never scared or felt any suspense, I said the idea and the actors were more than enough to at least enjoy it as a time waster. I don't know if I would ever see this again. I would say of the 3 John Ritter films I saw, thanks to my good friend Efree, I'll probably put this below. I would say probably Real Men, Skin Deep, and then this one. And I think of like John Ritter films in total, I would say my favorite is Stay Tuned, then probably like the ones he starred in. Not ones he had big roles like Bad Santa, but the ones he starred in, probably Stay Tuned, Real Men, Skin Deep. Would I like this more than Hero at Large? Maybe. I'd probably put this a little bit above it because the plot was a little bit more interesting to me than Hero. I didn't mind Hero at Large, but the plot, you know, again, that gated community. I mentioned a Stepford Wives-esque type of thing. A little bit of thrill. That was a little bit more interesting to see John Ritter in, for me. You know, the idea that, you know, cameras in every house and they could be watching us now, which is a very realistic thing. I've seen fucking found footage movies that have done that because they have cameras all over. That's an easily relatable, not relatable, well, relatable in terms of when people go, it's unrealistic, this would never happen. Are you sure? You can go on fucking YouTube, Sally, and find this shit. Maybe back in 1995 people thought this was science fiction, but a lot of this is not as far off as people make it out to be. And maybe that's the scariest part of the movie. Or, not even of the movie, the idea, I would say, is scarier than the movie itself. Like I said, the movie's made for TV, you know, that hampers the tension, you know. The director, I don't know what the director has done before. I did maybe with a budget to have a bit more high production value and stuff, and maybe a director that's really into thrillers, like, I know this is an out of the blue choice, but like a Brian De Palma. Because I think a Blowout and the way you're doing a little bit, I don't want to say surveillance, but, you know, guy recording the audio, and I just imagine like Brian De Palma, like he looks at the gated community and the way he does the camera, like goes from one picturesque house to the other one, but then inside, like one person's looking at all the cameras, or one person's doing this, and then goes to another house and they're fighting because of all these rules, and I'm just going off the top of my head. But it's for free on YouTube. It's worth a look if you're a fan of John Ritter, or if you're a fan of any amount of the idea I've talked about. It's worth at least one watch. It's not going to blow your mind or anything, but I'm glad I saw it. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.